right. So, uh, have you ever like accidentally gotten added to like one of those WhatsApp groups, like for a party or something that you were so not invited to?
Oh, yeah.
And you're just suddenly like bombarded with photos of people you don't even know, like doing, questionable dance moves and arguing about like the best dip for chips.
Yeah, why am I seeing this?
Right. It's like a total invasion of your digital space.
Totally, and you just want to like quietly back out unnoticed.
Exactly. But now imagine that same scenario, but instead of, awkward party pics, it's like top secret military intel.
Yeah.
Instead of your neighbor Brenda, it's like high-ranking government officials.
Okay, now that's a whole different level of awkward.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a conversation you were not meant to be part of.
Exactly.
Speaking of conversations you weren't supposed to see, welcome to Artificial Majorities.
This story, it's like something out of a movie. It's almost too crazy to believe.
Right.
But that's what makes it so fascinating. We're talking about a recent chat scandal, as they're calling it, over in the U.S.
Chats?
Yeah, involving the Trump administration and some leaked military plans. And get this all happening on Signal.
Signal, the messaging app.
The one and only.
So not exactly the Pentagon's top secret comms system.
Not quite.
So we've been digging into all this, trying to piece together what happened, and we've got some seriously interesting sources.
Yeah, we've been looking at reports from Eingefugter Text. You might recognize their logo.
Oh, yeah. They've been doing some great reporting lately, especially on the situation in Ukraine.
Absolutely. And we've also got some in-depth analysis from The Atlantic.
Always a good read.
Definitely. So our mission today is to kind of like unpack this whole thing.
Right. Figure out how this even happened, why it's a big deal, and what everyone's saying about it.
Exactly.
And we're sticking to the facts here, just laying out what these sources tell us without, taking sides.
Exactly. Just presenting the information as clearly as possible.
Okay, so buckle up because this is where it gets wild. This whole thing started with Jeffrey Goldberg.
He's the editor-in-chief over at The Atlantic.
Yeah, big name in journalism.
Oh, yeah.
So Goldberg suddenly finds himself added to this Signal group chat.
Out of the blue.
And the name of this chat, wait for it, Houfi PC Small Group.
Houfi PC Small Group.
Catchy, right. Very official sounding.
Right. Now, for those of you who don't speak fluent government acronym, PC stands for Principals Committee.
And that's basically the big leagues of national security, the top-level decision makers.
Yeah, we're talking cabinet secretaries, intelligence agency heads, often the vice president themselves.
Real power players?
Not exactly the kind of group chat you'd expect to stumble into on a Tuesday afternoon.
No, not at all.
And the alleged members of this chat, well, let's just say it was a who's who of the Trump administration.
Star-studded lineup.
Seriously, we're talking about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, National Intelligence Director, Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe.
Wow.
And even Stephen Miller and Michael Waltz reportedly playing key roles in the conversation.
That's quite the group. No kidding. Now, The Atlantic reports that Goldberg's initial reaction was basically, wait, what?
Understandable.
Right. I mean, the idea that these high-level discussions were happening on a regular messaging app and that here a journalist was somehow in the mix.
It's like a recipe for disaster.
Totally. He thought it had to be some kind of disinformation campaign or a really weird tech error.
Yeah, it's like something out of a spy novel.
But here's where it goes from strange to seriously significant. This chat wasn't just about, casual chit-chat.
No, it was about something much more substantial.
The sources we're looking at indicate that this Signal group was active in the lead-up to the U.S. military strikes against the Houthi militia in Yemen back on March 15th, 2025.
Oh, wow.
And the timing here is crucial.
Absolutely.
According to The Atlantic, and this is backed up by details in Eingefugter Text, Secretary Hegseth sent a message about 2 hours before those bombs started dropping.
2 hours before the strikes.
2 hours. That's cutting it close.
And get this, the message was labeled Team Update.
So not exactly subtle. Nope. And this wasn't just like a general overview of the situation.
What do you mean?
We're talking operational details.
Oh, wow.
Specific targets, types of aircraft involved F-18 jets, drones, even the planned sequence of attacks.
He laid it all out there.
Pretty much. Eingefugter Text even includes this chilling detail. Zielterrorist befindet sich an seinem bekannten Aufenthaltsort.
Which translates to?
Target terrorist is at his known location.
Okay, that's specific.
And they even talked about the weather. Das Wetter ist günstig.
Favorable conditions for an airstrike, I guess.
So, yeah, pretty comprehensive update, all things considered.
Wow, so you've got all this tactical information being shared on a platform that's not exactly known for its government-grade security.
Right.
And just hours before the operation goes down.
Makes you wonder what they were thinking.
It really does.
But it wasn't all just military jargon and target coordinates.
Oh, there was more.
Oh, yeah. They also got into some interesting discussions about the bigger picture.
Like what?
Well, for example, Vice President Vance apparently expressed some concerns about how this whole operation might affect European trade.
Okay, that makes sense.
He pointed out that a huge chunk of Europe's trade, something like 40%, goes through the Suez Canal.
Yeah, that's a major shipping route.
Compared to just 3% for the U.S.
So a big difference there.
Huge. And Vance was apparently not thrilled about the idea of, the U.S. having to step in and secure those routes for everyone else.
Understandable, I guess.
Yeah. The Atlantic quotes him as saying he hated bailing Europe out again.
Some frustration there.
Definitely. And Secretary Hegseth apparently agreed with him.
They were on the same page?
They were. He even used the term European freeloading.
Oh, boy.
And then you have Stephen Miller, who never one to shy away from a bold suggestion.
What did he propose?
Well, he reportedly suggested that the U.S. should actually charge Europe for the cost of securing those shipping routes.
Like a security surcharge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to use the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
You got to pay to play.
That's an interesting approach to international relations.
You could say that. And eingefügter Text even uses the phrase ökonomischen Vorteil.
Economic advantage?
Yeah, so it seems like there was this underlying idea of, trying to leverage the situation to the U.S.'s benefit.
So not just about security, but about potential economic gains as well.
And there were also some discussions about the timing of the attack.
Timing?
Yeah, like whether it clashed with President Trump's public messaging on Europe.
So potentially sending mixed signals?
It sounds like there might have been some internal disagreement about that.
Interesting.
So the operation happens, right?
Right.
And what's the mood like back in the chat?
I'm guessing celebratory.
You guessed it. According to The Atlantic, it was basically a digital high-five fest.
Oh, wow.
Messages like, amazing job, a good start.
Classic post-mission banter.
And, of course, no celebratory group chat is complete without emojis.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking fist bumps, American flags, fiery explosions, praying hands.
The whole emoji arsenal.
Even a flexed bicep emoji for that extra touch of mission accomplished.
Wow, they really went all out.
They did.
Yeah.
But amidst all the digital backpatting, they did reportedly touch on the less glamorous side of things.
Yeah.
The damage assessment, the casualties.
Right, because at the end of the day, this was a real military operation with real consequences.
Exactly. The Houthi-run Yemeni health ministry claimed at least 53 people were killed in the strikes.
53.
Yeah, though that number hasn't been independently verified.
Right.
And Michael Waltz, who was reportedly the one who created this chat in the first place, he later made some public statements basically contrasting these strikes with how the previous administration had handled similar situations.
So trying to draw a clear distinction.
Exactly. Like, we do things differently now.
Interesting.
So imagine being Jeffrey Goldberg, right?
The accidental fly on the wall.
Totally. He's in this chat watching all this unfold. And once he realizes what's actually going on, he does what any sane person would do. He gets out of there.
Exits the chat.
Stage left, which The Atlantic points out would have sent a notification to the group's administrator.
Oh, awkward.
Talk about a mic drop moment.
Definitely.
So the cat's out of the bag, right?
Right.
How did the White House and everyone involved respond to this, let's call it a communication snafu?
A snafu is putting it mildly.
The White House confirmed that the chat was real.
Okay.
And they attributed Goldberg's presence to an inadvertent number being added.
So a wrong number situation.
Basically, oops, we accidentally added a journalist to our top secret military planning chat.
It happens all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And President Trump, being President Trump, downplayed the whole thing.
Not surprising.
He called it a single slip-up in 2 months and defended Hegseth and Waltz.
Classic Trump.
He even called the whole thing a witch hunt.
Of course he did.
Hegseth himself reportedly denied sharing Kriegsplane in the chat.
Kriegsplane meaning?
War plans.
So he's denying sharing war plans, but what about, operational details of an imminent strike?
It's a fine line, isn't it?
Very fine.
And then you have CIA Director Ratcliffe, who admitted to being part of the chat, but insisted that no classified information was discussed.
Oh, okay. So they were just casually chatting about, the weather.
Right. And Gabbard basically said the same thing.
Mm.
And when asked about her own participation, she deferred to the Department of Defense.
Passing the bug.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you've got this clear clash of narratives.
That's right.
Goldberg's reporting details specific military plans being discussed while the administration is adamant that it was nothing classified or sensitive.
Two very different versions of events.
Makes you wonder who's telling the whole truth.
It really does.
And to make this whole thing even weirder, Elon Musk reportedly got involved.
Elon Musk. As in Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk.
The one and only.
What was he doing in this mix?
Well, apparently he helped with the internal investigation into how Goldberg's number ended up in the chat.
Okay, so when you accidentally leak military plans to a journalist, you call Elon Musk.
Makes perfect sense.
Not really.
And of course, The Atlantic stood by their decision to publish all this.
I can't say I've named them.
They argued that there was a clear public interest in knowing about this information, especially since it was being shared on what they called unsicheren Kommunikationskanälen.
Insecure communication channels.
Yeah, I mean, given the content, it's hard to argue with that.
Definitely.
Rubio reportedly described adding a journalist to this chat as a schwerer Fehler.
A serious mistake.
Understatement of the century.
For sure.
Other Republicans like Gabbard and Johnson were a bit more cautious in their criticisms, although Johnson seemed pretty keen on downplaying the whole thing.
Damage control.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, beyond the awkwardness and the, potential PR nightmare, what are the actual legal and security implications of all this?
Well, that's where things get even more complicated.
Our sources point to potential violations of the Espionage Act.
Oh, wow.
And federal records law.
So some serious legal trouble brewing.
Potentially. The Espionage Act deals with the unauthorized disclosure of national defense information.
And discussing sensitive military operations on an unapproved app like Signal?
Not exactly textbook protocol.
Could definitely fall under that law.
And then there's the issue of those disappearing messages.
Oh, right. Some of the messages in the chat were set to self-destruct after a certain amount of time.
A week or 4 weeks, depending on the message.
So not exactly a model of transparency.
Right. And that raises questions about compliance with federal records law, which requires the preservation of communications related to government business.
Tampering with evidence is never a good look.
Especially when it comes to national security.
Definitely national security lawyers, as reported by The Atlantic, were pretty clear that Signal is not an authorized platform for this type of communication.
Doesn't matter if you say it's declassified or not?
Nope. There are secure government systems for a reason.
And the irony of this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Remember all the outrage over Hillary Clinton's private email server?
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal.
The Trump administration was all over that.
Very critical.
And now here they are doing something arguably worse.
Talk about a double standard.
It's almost comical. And then there's the European angle, which Eingefügter text really highlights.
What about Europe?
Well, it seems like some folks in the Trump administration weren't exactly singing Europe's praises.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Vance's comment about bailing Europe out, Hegseth's agreement about European Schmeritzen, which basically means freeloading.
Not very flattering.
Not at all. And then Miller's idea about getting ökonomischen Vorteil, economic advantage from Europe.
Okay, so not exactly a warm and fuzzy feeling towards our allies.
Not exactly.
It makes you wonder how this might affect transatlantic relations.
Definitely paints a picture of some tension there.
It does.
So to wrap this all up, we've got a journalist accidentally added to a top-secret military planning chat where high-ranking U.S. officials are discussing sensitive operations and sharing some pretty frank opinions about international allies.
All happening on a regular messaging app.
Not exactly the picture of government competence and security.
No, it really raises some serious questions about how these things are handled.
Exactly. And just to reiterate, we've been focusing on presenting the information as it's been reported in our sources.
Absolutely no opinions or interpretations, just the facts.
So we'll leave you with this thought to ponder. In our hyper-connected digital world where information travels at warp speed, what happens when the lines get blurred between personal communication and matters of national security?
It's a question worth considering.
What does this incident tell us about the balance between security transparency and the need for swift decision-making in critical situations?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
And perhaps most intriguingly, what other secrets might be lurking out there in the digital trails we all leave behind?
That's a thought-provoking question.
Something to consider the next time you hit send without double-checking the recipients.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Chaz scandal.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We'll see you next time for another exploration into the world of artificial majorities.
Until then, stay curious.
And maybe double-check your group chats.
Just to be safe.